Good evening and Kate Milafalcha to the latest episode of the Late Late Show with me, Irish Tommy. And we're going to be talking, as usual, all things West Ham. We're going to talk about last week's defeat against Palace. We'll talk about our Midway Cup game against Blackburn. We'll look ahead to tomorrow's huge game at home to Leicester. And, of course, anything else West Ham related. And this week, I am absolutely delighted to say that I've got a couple of very special guests with me who I'll introduce to you. And first up is H. H, how are you doing?
Hey, Tommy, I'm doing good. How are you?
Good now. Delighted to have you on and looking forward to getting into some really interesting West Ham stuff. It's going to be an interesting one tonight, I think. There's a lot to talk about. And my second honoured guest tonight is Laura Smith. Laura, how are you?
Oh, yeah, all good, thanks. Oh, God, that's really close.
It's fine, no worries. Thanks for joining us, and looking forward to this next chat we're going to have. Like I say, a lot to get our teeth into, a lot going on at West Ham this season. So I suppose we're going to start because I don't know, were both of you guys at the Palace game?
Unfortunately.
I actually didn't go, no. I can't remember what I was doing now.
You dodged a bullet. I mean,
yeah.
Just weather-wise as well. I mean, it was absolutely horrendous. Did you get soaked, H?
I was all right, to be honest. It was pretty dry as I was walking to the ground. That was my main concern. I was like, that moment from the station into the ground, I was like, there's no cover really. And I'm sat in the upper, so I was covered the whole time. So I was pretty lucky, so I was fine.
Right, yeah, that's a small victory, I suppose, from a kind of horrible game, really. At least you were dry. But I suppose, Laura, just to start with you, it was our usual kind of concerning slow defensive start. I mean, one of the things we've been talking about a lot this season is that we've got to stop starting so slowly. And unfortunately, we just saw exactly the same thing again against Palace.
Yeah, but I also don't think last season our first half of matches were amazing. We always seemed to come out of the block second half. I don't actually have the stats, but I felt like beginning of this season that it was going to be the same sort of thing. But we've dropped off of an edge, and I don't know what's going on. If the World Cup is on everyone's mind or what, I don't know what's happening. I don't know if Moyes has definitely lost the dressing room. Doesn't seem like he has. But something's definitely not right, and I don't know if it is the World Cup. Because a lot of teams, Liverpool are not playing their best football. You've got teams like Newcastle are doing well. Brighton are doing fantastic. But the bigger teams have not started as well. So I don't know if that's having an impact.
Yeah, it is a bit of an unusual season, all right. There's no doubt about that. But I suppose it was concerning, H, that another slow start, and it's been a feature of us this season. And we've got to stop doing this. And we really just right from the first whistle again at home against a Palace team who are a decent enough side, but certainly nothing to fear. And again, just a very slow defensive start.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I felt full of confidence going into the game. As I have done with a lot of these on the back of last season, I've sort of thought, that I'm not looking at any sides and thinking, they're not beatable, except maybe for Brighton, but that's because Brighton are Brighton for us. But I mean, it's just incredibly frustrating that we've just been leaving it far too late, just across the whole field, to be honest. We just seem to have had something's been knocked out of us. And like Laura said, I don't know if it is the World Cup. I don't know if it's sort of, that there's issues that we don't know going on behind the scenes, like with new players trying to be integrated and what comes with that. But yeah, something's not right with us, and I'm really struggling to put my finger on it. There's a lot of micro issues that seem to be rearing their ugly heads every single week, and we're not quite nipping them in the bud when they come out. We're too slow to do that, and then when we do that, we're already a few steps behind. So yeah, it's disappointing. It's disappointing to be getting off to a slow start, and that's been I'd argue the past 4 or 5 games for me where I would look at those and say we should be taking something, and we're not.
Yeah, it's it's frustrating because, I mean, under Moyes, we've never really been an expansive team. We've never got kind of numbers forward all the time. We have tended to play on the counter. But the last couple of seasons, we've done it very effectively. We've been a really horrible team to play against the last couple of seasons. We've been physical. We've been incredibly hardworking with our closing down, our tackling. And then when we were breaking effectively. Obviously, Jared Bowen was flying it, particularly down the wing. And we just seem to have lost that this season. And when you're going to play essentially defensively and look to counter, you just have to be effective on the counter. If you take that away, you're going to struggle. And I think that's kind of been the way it's been this season, Laura. I mean, our counter-attacking, for some reason, it's just we look so much more ponderous. That we're so much slower bringing the ball out. A lot more sidewards, backwards passing. There's no real flow to it. And also, for some reason, which I can't put my finger on, our set pieces have just disappeared. I mean, teams the last couple of seasons used to absolutely hate giving corners away against us. They dreaded giving us corners because we were so dangerous on them. And it's difficult to understand, Laura, really, where that drop-off has come from. I mean, I don't know if it has anything to do with coaching departures, with, obviously Irvine hasn't left the club, but he's just not in the same role anymore. Stuart Pearce has left. I just wonder if that's had a massive effect.
Well, I think that some players are not on form, and especially Bowen. He went away to England, and it might have knocked his confidence a little bit. That could have had an effect. And also, we've got some brilliant players that have come in. Do we know how to play them in the game? The likes of Skamaka and whatnot. Because Antonio, he's a big guy. You just give him the ball and hope that he muscles through. It's a different way of playing. I mean, obviously, the loss of Noble is probably having a big impact. It'll be interesting to see what happens when he comes back in January, I suppose, and see if he can sort of change the dressing room. But I do think England had an effect on players like Bowen, definitely. Since he's come back, he's not been the same player at all. And yeah, God knows why.
Yeah, Bowen's a strange one because, you would think, with the World Cup coming up, he'd be highly motivated to kind of make sure he's on that plane. And for some reason this season, I mean, he just cannot get going. There was a couple of games where it seemed like he was picking up a little bit and maybe he was just going to start getting back into form again. But it has to be said, it had another very, very poor game against Palace.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I try not to, just go straight in and criticise individual performances. But there have been so many that have been sort of below par recently. I think Moyes came out, I think it might have been last season, or it might have been the beginning of this season, and in one of his post-match interviews, he said something about like those core players that he relies on to turn up and do well in their positions have been letting him down. And that's, for me, you've then got to look at that and say, okay, well, what are you doing about that? If it's a poor run of form, are they going to lose their spot? What are you going to do to help them find their feet again? So yeah, I mean, for him, again, it's a confusing one for me because, like you say, surely you're going to want to you're going to want to be on your A game week in, week out, with Southgate watching and things like that. But he's just been completely off it for me. But he's not the only one. And you mentioned about like some of the issues with us with breaking forward with our style of play. But I mean, I think you're probably right to some degree about coaching and stuff, because I mean, it's week in, week out. We can't seem to beat the first man from a corner or a cross. Like we've got to probably be one of the worst teams, but don't have the stats to hand. And I mean, I'm going on what I see. Like delivering the ball from the byline. Like we just can't. I mean, we might do all the hard work to run down the channels, but then it's just a dead ball. It's just. Again, with United, we did everything right in the middle of the park to win the ball back, and then it's just a breakdown in play again. We're static. We look like we're out of ideas, and it's those players like Bowen, when they're on form, that help us with that creativity, breaking forward and breaking into the box. And with him being off it, I think that's why we're missing it. We really are missing that attacking style of play.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a big problem, Laura, hasn't it, this season? It's just, even when we have played well, and we have at times, through the midfield and getting some numbers forward, getting good attacks going, and then for some reason it just breaks down in the final third. It's like the cross isn't good enough, the final pass isn't just good enough, and that's really costing us. We do get shots off. Because I see people will say, look at the stats, we do actually get shots off. But my problem is that it's the quality of those shots isn't there. We're not really opening teams up and creating kind of gilt-edged scoring opportunities. The crosses aren't there, like as H said, the crosses and corners are hitting the first man. The final ball isn't good enough. And you can see, really, I mean, Skamaka looks unbelievably frustrated with the lack of service that he's getting. He's had really, in that Palace game, I don't think we created a single opportunity for him to get a shot off on goal. And I think that's been a massive problem. And it's just, we have to address it, Laura.
Yeah, we do. And I think that comes from the attacking midfielder. I mean, you've got Declan Rice and Souček. And I do like Thomas Souček, but I think we need to freshen up in there. I really do. His passing's not great. He's been a great servant, but I think we need someone else in there. And I love Downes. I'd like to see him get more time in the Premier League. But I definitely think we need to try a different formation in there. Definitely. Maybe 4-0, start 4-0 in there. With Benny. I mean, I don't know what Moyes' problem is with Benny. He's been by far one of the best players for West Ham this season, and he brings him off all of the time. And you have Bowen on the other side, who 9 times out of 10 gets a 90-minute game, and he's offering nowhere near the amount that Benny offers. So I don't know why, and no one seems to know why Benny doesn't get the service he deserves. Only Moyes can answer that, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the criticisms really at the moment, H, of Moyes, is that there are certain players, I think Souček and Bowen in particular, it seems no matter how badly they play or for how long, they just do not get dropped. And as Laura was saying, I mean, last season, you could say, okay, Moyes doesn't feel like he has another option in beside Declan Rice. He doesn't trust the other players there, doesn't want to use them. But this season, that excuse doesn't seem to be there. I mean, with Flynn Downes, as Laura was saying, I mean, it has been fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And he's a great passer of a ball. And he can do the tackling. He can do the hard work. He's not lazy. He can do all the things pretty much that Souček can do. Okay, maybe not as good at clearing headers in the box. But it seems to me Souček now is essentially just an extra defender who's playing in midfield. He offers nothing going forward, does a lot of good defensive work, no question. But that's not what we need. We need someone in there who can move the ball, and Flynn Downes can do that. And again, as Laura was saying, Ben Rama started the season, one of the few players that was showing some real form in the early stages of the season, and still can't catch a break when it comes to Moyes. I mean, it was astonishing that he was taken off against Palace when he was the one player who looked like he might provide a spark that we need. Okay, I'm not saying he was setting the world on fire, but he was certainly a lot better in that game, I thought, than Bowen. And yet Bowen still stays on the pitch. And you wonder, I mean, Moyes loves Souček so much that he'll play Flynn Downes in the number 10 role rather than just drop Souček. It's just, I think he's making a rod for his own back, H.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's really difficult to defend, isn't it? It's really difficult to defend those decisions. And something I find quite confusing is sort of he then comes out post-match and makes some really interesting comments, almost criticisms at those players that he's taken off to justify his decision-making. And it's really confusing. I can't quite get my head around it. I mean, I'm not qualified like he is. I'm not in that job for a reason, but all of us are seeing it. Thousands of us are sitting there going, what on earth is happening? And you can't help but almost think, how is he not coming out and going, okay, made a mistake there, shouldn't have made that decision. But that's never going to happen. Not going to say it to us, but I can't. Yeah, that sub for Benrahma was just. I still can't get my head around it. It's still difficult to even have the words. I can't, in anything I know about football, understand why that happened. Particularly as you say with Bowen there. It's baffling. And for me, Benrahma he's been a game changer for a lot of matches this season. I mean, even Wednesday, he was a game changer. And there's been an ongoing, I suppose, debate amongst fans for a while about Benrahma. He seems to be a bit of a love-hate kind of player, where a lot of people want to see more of him. Some people don't rate him at all. And I think the general consensus is that he's got the ability there. He just needs to be empowered to play his style of play. And I get he does lose the ball sometimes, but we're not exactly outstanding with ball retention at the moment. And I would sooner rather a player like Benrahma be looking to make an attacking run towards the box and get dispossessed than we get dispossessed in the middle with Souček, right on the halfway line, and then we're under pressure. I'd sooner rather us get dispossessed actually having a go than sitting back, being polite, allowing the press from the opposition. So yeah, it's really baffling, and yeah, difficult to defend those decisions when they're coming in at the moment. But if we're winning, is that a different case? Probably not, because you've got to look at what's going on the pitch at the end of the day.
Yeah,
well, it's not only that he's getting Souček disliked. You know, some of these, you've been over there and they're booing Souček. It's not Souček. He's playing his football. Granted, he's not good enough.
Completely disagree. You can't be cheering at that substitution. I completely agree with, I suppose, the reaction to the Benrahma sub, but the reaction to the Souček sub, I mean, there's already a lack of morale in that team right now, and to have that response from the fans isn't going to help. And I get you can.
I don't think it was aimed at Souček.
But this isn't coming from us. We're well right to feel the way we feel, and I get that's cheering that the substitution's been made, but yeah, like Laura's bang on the money there. Like you're making fans turn against certain players because you're not getting the full potential out of them, and then equally, what don't we know with players turning against players for the first time in a long time? You're seeing players throw their arms up at each other, shake their heads at each other. You're seeing little words be said. We don't know how much of that goes back into the dressing room. There's language barriers. There's all sorts of problems that are not going to be being helped by this situation. And that's where I feel your manager has probably got to act as a facilitator and an enabler to bring that arguably excellent squad and turn them into a team. Because I think that's what we have, who say on paper, yeah, we've got a great squad, but right now we're not seeing them as a team. And is it because those favourites, for lack of a better word, as people call them, Souček, Bowen, the ones who seem to be immune, are being allowed to be enabled to be there when maybe they shouldn't be? And it's going to cause friction on the pitch from the fans to the players, fans to the club. And it's been so positive the past couple of seasons that it is actually really, really upsetting to see. Yeah,
and I just think about how we've been this season, Laura. It's not just this season for me. I think we really took a downturn this year, really, this calendar year. I mean, the second half of last season was not great. I remember, we dropped a lot of points in the second half of last season, and I just remember how many weekends that other results went our way. We were dropping points, and then luckily the teams that could challenge us for those European spots were also kind of losing or drawing that weekend, and we just seemed to keep getting away with it. And so it's not really just this season. I mean, this has kind of been coming. This run of bad form isn't just 14 games. It's going right back, well, you could say even to late last year. We got an absolute flying start to the season last season. And then we just tailed off before Christmas. And so this has kind of been coming. And I just wonder, our run in the Europa League, I think, kind of papered over some of the cracks. I know, like me personally, even though I wasn't happy with a lot of the performances and results the second half of last season, I forgave them because I was so caught up in the Europa League. I was so caught up in the games against Sevilla and Lyon and Frankfurt, and I kind of forgave it, and I made the excuse for it. That, okay, look, obviously we're a little distracted here. The players' minds are on these big European games. I know my mind was on them because it was so special to me. I mean, we've been so starved of that. But I think if you take that away and look back now and look at it a little more coldly, I think this dip in form has been here really for the last few months. I mean, our record this calendar year, if you look at our wins, losses, draws, I mean, I think in the last year we've got 5 away wins. It's like, it's actually really poor when you look at the numbers, and maybe this was coming and we just kind of didn't allow ourselves to see it, Laura.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the European competition definitely papered over the cracks. I mean, I think the last away, correct me if I'm wrong, the last away game we probably scored 3 and probably won convincingly, was Palace back in, was it January? I think we beat them 3-1. But they were coming back. I can't remember how the game ended. I mean, you even got to look at Kidderminster. You shouldn't bring Declan Rice on against Kidderminster, So it's been a long time, and I think, we didn't get. We had a really tough game beginning of the season. We had a tough couple of games, and I do think that some of our focus was on obviously Conference League, pushing on with that. It's not been great, but at the same time, you kind of forget when you win 2-1, you draw and you're getting the points, and then and then you come to this season and you're dropping the points. It shows. So yeah, I'm kind of speechless as to how we've gone from top 7 to relegation fodder. Basically, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I think as well, H, that was it you, Laura, or you, H, that said about the possibility that Moyes might be losing the players, and I think his style of play, I don't imagine, is the most exciting for the players. We know it's not particularly great for us to watch, but I don't imagine players love it. I don't imagine players love being defensive as we are. But I think if it's working as it was the last couple of seasons, say, or certainly for the first 18 months in my second spell, if it's working and you're winning games and you're kind of flying high in the table and you're progressing in Europe, I think you can get the fans and the players to kind of buy into it and say, okay, it's not the prettiest, but it's bloody effective and we're winning games, and so you can live with it. I think the fans can live with it, players can live with it. But I think the problem now, H, is once it stops working and you're no longer winning games, when you're playing that style of football and losing and you're down the bottom of the table, that's when I think a manager can lose the players very quickly.
Yeah, I think it's like the answer there is just like, surely something's then got to change. Is it, players, is with that, is that formation, complete style of play? Something's then got to give, right? If it stops working. I think Laura sort of mentioned like the last convincing win with several goals, but I think it's been a while since it has been convincing, even when we've got the points out of it. And I know we can say sort of, but that's the West Ham way. We make hard work of it. We always have done. But with the players that we have, and the confidence really that we should have had coming out of last season and the season before, like you could see it last year. You could see how well, almost like the camaraderie that was there, like the buzz that was in camp. You could tell changing room was good. I know they're absolutely not going to be posting pictures on social media after losing to Palace of each other in the changing room, because that's just an insult and they're not going to be happy. But that proves it's legit, right? Like they're not happy. That it's just an unhappy place to be at the moment. I think, yeah, you're right that you run the risk of losing the players if you're not going to change the way you're dealing with it on the pitch. And I think like our fan base is absolutely outstanding, and very patient. And everyone's kind of quick to criticise each other's views and opinions, but I'd argue that we're just all in the same boat at the moment, in that we do expect a bit better. And people say, but it's 2 seasons or whatever. But look at the team we've got. Look at what we started to build. There's no real excuse for it other than something isn't working on that pitch. That's not those players. If they're not gelling, then that's where, coaching, management, that they have to step in and they have to do something. Don't get me wrong. There is an element of individual performances in that. Like what Moyes says doesn't mean that Soufal then can't cross, right? There's something around that. Losing the ball too easily in the middle of the park, that's got absolutely nothing to do with it. But yeah, shape, style of play, the way we're starting games, how late we are to make subs, how late we are to change it when it's not working, all the subs we are making with a massive question mark on them. That's not down to player performances for me. That's what, like, as you say, you run the risk of losing the players and sadly losing the fans.
Yeah, and I mean, Laura, there's obviously no open rebellion among the players. Nobody's down tools, and I don't think that's what's happened. Certainly not to this point. But I suspect the players just aren't enjoying this whatsoever. I don't think they'll have enjoyed a single thing about that Palace game.
No.
And it's been the general kind of way things have been this season. I don't think the players are enjoying playing football right now. It's just everyone back behind the ball. It's not working getting forward. And I think as a player, if you're playing in a kind of system that you don't like playing in, that doesn't inspire you, that isn't really fun to play in, it's not enjoyable, it's going to be hard to get a tune out of yourself. Even if you're not rebelling against the manager, your headspace isn't going to be right. And it's going to be difficult to perform to the best of your abilities if it's just not something you're really into as a player. And I suspect there's a bit of that going on. And I think some of the performances that we're seeing from the players, I think is just this kind of malaise where they just can't get themselves up for these games because they just don't like the approach that we're taking to them. I think the players, if you were to talk to them privately and it would never get out, I think a lot of them would probably tell you, and look, I don't know this, obviously, I just suspect. I think a lot of the players would say, look, we can do better than this. We don't have to sit back like this at home to Palace. We don't have to go to Everton, get everyone behind the ball. We don't have to go to Villa Park with 3 centre-backs and wing-backs and sit everyone back and get absolutely nothing out of it for 45 minutes. We might have had to change up the whole formation, make a couple of subs in that game at half-time. And then second half, we improved. But the players themselves, Laura, must be thinking, we're better than this.
Yeah, I do think that. But I was speaking to a few people in the last couple of weeks, about other clubs being interested in some of the players now. And I know Liverpool was interested in Bowen at one point. A lot of interest in Declan. I think Souček, there was a rumour in the summer that Souček was going to be sold, and I'm wondering if that has an influence on them. I don't know. I think Declan Rice only got 2 years on his contract, hasn't signed a new one, but there was a lot of interest in Bowen. Does Bowen want to play for West Ham? Because at the moment it doesn't seem like he wants to. And Souček, with all the crap he's getting at the moment, and I don't know if this is true or what, but Moyes was him and Nara whether to put him up for sale in the summer. So these must have some impact on their more on their mental health of playing the game. But I don't know, it's such a weird one. Unless you're in the dressing room, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. So it's a tricky one, but you don't know what's going to happen in the future, and if we're going to have Declan Rice come next summer and other players.
Yeah, I think I'm not optimistic about Rice, to be honest. Mark Noble obviously was speaking during the week about Rice and saying, look, for him, it's not about the money. It never has been. He's just very ambitious. He wants to play at the highest level. He wants to win some trophies. And I think the way the season's going hasn't helped our cause whatsoever in trying to convince him that we're going to build a really good team around him that's going places. You know, he must feel that we're going backwards. You know, we're
you
2
can't spend
points.
you can't spend all that money though and be sitting where we're sitting. You know, we've brought in some really good players. And I don't know if we can maybe gel a bit more and maybe start to get it flow. It might be a bit better, but I just don't think you can spend however much we've spent and be sitting, you know, like you said, 2 points above the relegation zone. It's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that big spend has put him under actually a lot of pressure, Moyes. You know, he's brought in Italy's number 9, Brazil's number 10. Plus, he spent a lot of money on Aguerd. Okay, can't help the injury. But, you know, it's a huge outlay. Obviously, Cornet, been unlucky with him as well. Apparently, he won't see him until the new year. And so, you know, with that kind of spend, board expect results. You know, they expect to see that spend reflected on the pitch. And, you know, I mean, it's putting them under a lot of pressure. You just can't spend that kind of money and be in a relegation scrap.
No, absolutely. And if what we hear during the transfer window is true, that he's very picky, and you know he does take it very seriously with who he signs, then when they're there, when they arrive, when they start playing, like if he's put so much into those decisions of who he wants, then why are we not seeing them used to their fullest potential? Because I think you said earlier, like again, spot on. It must be so frustrating for some of these players who've come in to a team. They've gone, okay, this is West Ham. They're really driving forward now. They want to be seen as one of the, you know, top 7 clubs. You know, how well would we have done last season if we didn't have that lack of squad depth with the Europa League? Could we have finished higher in the table? Are they viewing us as one of those top challengers now? Probably. Like it's attractive to get as far as we did in the Europa League, and to be pulling off the performances that we did in that competition. But the likes of Scamacca, you can tell like it's not going to take long, if he hasn't already, for him to lose his head. He seems very driven, and he strikes me as a sort of player where, given the right service, he should be scoring, you know, 2-3 goals against teams like Palace, like Bournemouth, like teams that you can break down through the back. Like, you just give him the right ball. You can tell he just wants to pull the trigger all the time, and he's not getting that opportunity. He's not getting the service for one reason or another. And then he's off at half time. He's pulled off again. And sometimes it's been the right decision because Antonio has come on and he has made an impact, I would argue. But that is no fault of Scamacca's. It's almost like a Allaire part 2 is happening. And is that because he's not being used to his potential? Has he not got the service that he needs because of the way we're lining up in the middle? It's a shame to see players like that where we've seen what they could bring and we're just not seeing it translate for us in the league and arguably in the cup. Yeah, it's a shame. And I think you're right, the pressure's there if you're going to bring those players in to use them, because look how excited we all were. We were like, I cannot believe it. We've parted with some money, thank God. And, you know, we're all yet to be convinced massively. But I don't think that's a criticism of the players. I think we are just struggling to piece it all together.
Yeah, and I suppose, Laura, that's really the thing that Moyes has got to figure out now. He's got to figure out how to get all these players on the park together, get some service up to Scamacca, get Paqueta motoring. We haven't even come close to seeing the best of Paqueta yet. And that's the big challenge for Moyes. Look, big money spent on these players. Mm-hmm. We cannot continue with Scamacca not having any chances created for him. We can't expect Scamacca, in my opinion, to be running out to the sideline the way Antonio does when he plays up front. Antonio runs into the corners, and he's happy to do that, but he takes our number 9 completely out of the box. What we've been crying out for the longest time is a proper number 9 who's going to be in and around the box, who makes those really clever runs like Scamacca does, you know, between the centre backs, between the fullback and centre back, and is a finisher and who's going to play between the lines. And is going to be in and around the box, always looking to get on the end of a cross, always looking to get on the end of a through ball. And finally, we have that player, and we can't get the ball into him. Moyes had better figure this out quick.
Yeah, I think Moyes is. You ask any football fan, Moyes is notorious for not being able to manage big players. Everyone says it. Don't know why. But what I scratch my head sometimes, why he never plays Scamacca and Antonio together. Just give it a go. If Bowen's not on form, put Antonio out on the wing. He's bloody strong. He's fast. He loves running into the corner anyway. He's got 5 times out of 10, he's got a decent cross. He's not terrible. But I would like to see Antonio and Scamacca play together just once. But I do understand why he doesn't, because I don't think we've got any impact players off the bench. You play Scamacca and Antonio together. Who you bringing on? There is no one who's got the pace of Antonio up front, because he's fast and he's strong. So it's just it's very much team management, and I just don't know if Moyes has the capabilities of playing big names in the right positions.
Yeah, and I suppose it kind of brings me on to my next question for both of you. I'll start with you, H. Do you think Moyes is capable of actually playing a different way, of becoming more expansive? Because he certainly spoke about it. He said we can't keep doing what we're doing. It won't keep working forever. So we've got to become more expansive, more attacking. We've got to evolve as a team. And I suppose when we saw these players coming in this summer, the likes of Cornet and Scamacca and Paqueta, we were thinking, okay, this is the beginning of it now. We're gonna see, we've got a proper number 9 in now. Italy's number 9. We've got a proper kind of playmaker in Paqueta, real pace, which we were severely lacking in the team by bringing in Cornet. And we felt excited that this was the evolution that he talked about. But it just hasn't happened whatsoever. In fact, we've gone backwards. We've gotten even more defensive and more kind of cagey in the way we play, and less able to actually get forward and create opportunities and score goals. And H, do you think he's actually capable of doing what he says he wants to do?
I really don't know, Tommy, to be honest with you. I mean, evidence-based, no. But it wasn't always like that, right? Like in the box, like you say, aerial duels, like we were absolutely fantastic. Like if we're going back, and we were difficult, like you say, we were a nightmare to defend against, especially corners, set pieces, like so difficult. So you could argue with that was good attacking football, but yeah, like you say, it's almost like we've gone backwards. So how can he be saying, this isn't going to work? We need to be changing forward. We need to be becoming more of a threatening team. When every week at the moment we're just turning up and we're being completely polite and inviting pressure, and teams have figured us out. They've clocked us. And is it that Moyes hasn't got a plan B? And he plays well in Europe. He knows how to play in Europe, but in the league, we're getting like Blackburn. I'm sorry, I know you're going to come on to it, but there were things that screamed, we've been clocked, we've been figured out, and we haven't got a plan B. So that almost is completely contrary to, can he change it? Can he do it differently? Has it got it in him? Is it just a risk-taking thing? Have we just got to be a bit ballsy and just change the formation? Change the starting lineup. Upset a couple of favourites, maybe. Is it even as much as upsetting people? It's not really, is it? It's just, you could argue you've had those opportunities with some of the Europa League games we've had. We didn't really have that luxury in pre-season at all, because they hadn't arrived, or we just didn't have that then. We'll have a couple of friendlies in the break, but Scamacca will be there. We'll be missing a couple of players. So again, what are we going to be trying? And we just, like you say, we don't know what goes on at the training grounds to demonstrate that we look like Moyes looks like he's willing to change. I think there was an interview with Antonio. It was one that I don't know. It wasn't like a pre or post match or anything. And I think he said that they haven't even practiced him and Scamacca playing together in training. It's not something they've done. And that, to me, if that's true, that speaks volumes about our intent. or Moyes' intent. But yeah, I guess there's just so many unknowns, and I think that's probably why a lot of us fans are just, we're almost speechless at what's going on sometimes. And yeah, I feel like a change has got to happen. And if we're not going to see that on the pitch, it's no surprise that some people are screaming for the change to happen in the back room, right? And with the management. So yeah, I don't know if he's capable of it. I don't know if he will do it. I hope so, because, you know, he has given us a lot, and it would be sad to see a fan base turn against him. So I'd like him to fix it. I really would. But we look stagnant. We look out of ideas. We looked out of ideas 4 games in. And, you know, not to be super negative, but that is, like you say, it's been coming. It's been a burner, right? It's been coming.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily 4 games. But yeah, I would like to see it happen, obviously. But whether he can or not, I guess that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
got the tools, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it, Laura? I mean, it's not like he's got a crap team. It's not like, you know, we've just been promoted and he doesn't have the quality. You know, he's got championship players, really, maybe a couple of good Premier League quality players, and we're just trying to stay afloat. I mean, at the moment, we've only got Cornet injured, right? So everybody else is available to him. So home to Leicester tomorrow. I mean, what excuse is there really to set up defensively again? I mean, if you look at the team we can put out, okay, maybe not all of them are banging form, but, you know, we can put out a very strong, talented Premier League 11. And it just frustrates the hell out of me to see these kinds of players who are very talented as an 11 and to see us play scared every time we play. It's like we go out and we set up as if everyone we play is better than us.
Yep.
And it just drives me absolutely crazy. I mean, we've got a quality squad here, and we finally even have some depth. And to see him hold these players back the way he does is absolutely maddening, Laura. I mean, and like I say, he's under massive pressure now. I mean, tomorrow's a huge game for him. I mean, I just wonder, will the pressure make him do it, or do you think he's just going to become even more entrenched?
I mean, Moyes has never won anything as a manager, has he? He's never won, no. So, you know, I don't think he won anything with Everton, and he was there for years. Granted, he didn't have the money at United, but he had the big names. Couldn't do anything with them. And I think tomorrow, I think he'll do the same. He'll set up exactly the same as he always does, and hope to get him on the break. Now, Leicester started rubbish, but they are very much in form now. And with the likes of James Maddison being called up to the England squad, he's going to have a hell of a lot of confidence. I think we've got a big game on our hands, and I'll be surprised if we win. Personally, if we come away with a win, I'll be very surprised. I think we would end up drawing at best, and because I think he will set. This is not me being negative, because I think he will set up as he has done for the last year. That's my opinion, but I don't think he's going to change the team at all. No chance.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. I mean, I think we all probably feel like that pressure is just possibly going to make him dig his heels in even more. You know, I don't think he's the kind of guy who, when he comes under this kind of pressure, just decides, "Oh, to hell with it.
Yep.
We're just going to, you know, take the shackles off, unmuzzle the players, and, you know, let's get out there and let's get after Leicester, and let's start on their front foot and let's get in their face." I suspect the pressure might even make him worse. I mean, the Palace game was as bad as I've ever seen, I mean, and he was already under some pressure in that game. You know, he's looking at Palace and Leicester at home. He's probably thinking, "Oh, I could really use a couple of wins here, you know, just to push us up the table inside that top 10 probably with 2 wins and, you know, just ease the pressure before the World Cup." But that performance, I mean, he's taken so much flack for that performance against Palace, and rightly so, in my opinion. I thought it was absolutely horrific the way we set out to play in that game. And you just wonder, he just seems like the type H who's more likely to dig his heels in than to take the shackles off.
Yeah, he absolutely plays it safe, doesn't he? He plays it safe. But like I said before, that there's something around risk going forward. But for him personally, yeah, again, Tommy, spot on. Like, as a manager, surely you're looking at these few games. I mean, probably, yeah, Bournemouth, Palace, and going very winnable at home. You're at home. There's a chance to, yeah, pick up these points, crawl up the table, because it was, you know, and is arguably very close. But yeah, I think I can't comprehend not doing it. But I think Laura's spot on. Is it with one game left? And as you say, Hill's go in. It's Moyes. He's going to go. It does work though. It has worked. So that, you know, I feel like that's the mindset. Let's just get this last one out of the way. You know, we'll respect a point if we get a point. If we get a win, great. But that's not enough. But you're right. Yeah. I mean, some of the comments that have come out around, you know, some interviews of his have had me scratching my head as well. I think there was something around the Leicester game. So he said, you know, we're both the same. We're both in the same position. So it'd be, and I'm like, well, we're not though, are we? Because they will, and Laura's bang on. They will turn up and they will play us tomorrow. They're going to be full of confidence. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like we are not, because we're not playing like that. And like you said, we look scared. We look like we're setting up that everyone is better than us. And I don't feel that was us for a large part of last season. We looked like we could take on anybody. And this season, yeah, we don't seem to want it. We don't seem to fancy playing anybody at the moment. It's not there in the performances. It's not there in the confidence. And those who sit around me at home, and those that I stand with at away games, we're all saying the same thing, which is like, genuinely, what has happened to these players? Like, where have they gone? Like, where is that confidence and that spark gone? And you see it when it happens. We love it, like taking on a player, like the bare basic of just taking on a player and not just stopping, turning and playing a backward pass. And I think that changes with Moyes, and tomorrow feels like a play it safe game for Moyes. He can't afford that, I don't think. But yeah, I feel you're right. There's an element of stubbornness. Some of the comments have been a bit strange. It's Moyes. I'm not a heavy Moyes out screamer. But yeah, with one game left, you think these points are crucial going into the World Cup break. They really are. So I'd like to see some changes, but yeah, I think you're right. There's a bit. Hills might go in, Tommy.
Yeah, that's. I think we all expect that. It would be a massive surprise if we came out, you know, out the traps really quickly and really got after them and played a more expensive kind of game. Because I think we all know we're going to see Souček. You know, he's going to start, and Souček essentially is another defender now. You know, Souček offers nothing going forward for whatever reason. He's not the Skameka of, he's not the Souček of old.
I miss Souček, who used to get a bandage on his head because he was thrown off every single ball. I really do.
11 goals. The season we finished sixth, he scored 11 goals. I mean, for someone playing from midfield to chip in with 11 is phenomenal.
I miss Fornells. I miss Fornells playing. I do. Yeah. I really do like him. I really do like him.
Weeks for me. He's been really, really good.
Yeah, and Fornells, I mean, he's a very talented player and a very good attacking player, and that's his natural game, you know. But when he was at Villarreal coming through, I mean, that's exactly what he was. I mean, a really exciting attacking player. Spanish under 21s. I mean, he looked amazing. But again, Moyes has just turned him into another Kartars, and he just does this to players. And I think he's done it to Souček. He's done it to Fornells. I mean, like I say, Souček now is just another defender who happens to play in midfield. He's turned Fornells. He puts him on the left wing. He doesn't belong out there.
No chance.
And he's essentially like a holding winger.
Yeah.
And now he's turned him into a holding winger. Now he's trying to turn Flynn Downes into a holding number 10. And it's like, what are you doing?
And how is like, right? How are they not going, what are you doing with me? Like,
yeah, it's like, I think back to when Bilic was in charge, remember he started playing Antonio at right back,
Yeah.
and it was an absolute disaster because he's got no clue how to defend as a right back. And like Mark Noble and Antonio and a couple of other players had to go to Bilic on the training ground and beg him to stop playing Antonio at right back. And it's like, I thought that was over with, but now we've got a holding number 10 and a holding winger and
It's
a
like
defender in
we've
midfield.
got luxury now.
Yeah.
Like, paper thin squad last season. There were things that we were like choices with injuries and whatever, but you look at that squad now and you don't need to be messing things around. You don't see that in other clubs. They don't chop and change like that. They don't do that. They play players to their potential in their positions and they get the best out of them. And it is as simple as that for me. I mean, it's obviously not as simple as that, but I mean, the luxury's there, right? So what is going on? What is going
I think we said last season, the teams are dropping points around us. I mean, you look at the table now. Liverpool have dropped points. Chelsea are dropping points. You've got Fulham up there, Crystal Palace. We should be up there. We should be beating. We should be above Fulham, Palace. I can't even remember. I'm having a look at the table now. I don't know who's after. Like we're the ones that we should be up in the top 5 by the looks of that. You're not going to get a season like this again where the big teams are dropping points. I mean, Man City hadn't started great either. So something needs to change big time.
Yeah, because I think H, like when you look at the teams in the Premier League, obviously you've got Man City who are a superb side, but even Liverpool this season, Liverpool aren't great this season. Tottenham are Tottenham. They flatter to deceive.
Chelsea are terrible.
Chelsea just got spanked by Brighton. 4-1. So it's not like the Premier League is at its zenith. Right now there's a lot of kind of fairly average teams in there, and for us to be down where we are with the players that we've got is crazy. I mean, look at United. I mean, Jesus. I mean, we went there and lost to them. Of course, they're losing to bloody everyone.
Should have beat them though.
Game. We went to Liverpool.
Liverpool, there's points there for the taking. United, there's points there for the taking. Chelsea, there's points there for the taking. And yes, there's elements of bad luck in these games, right? But
Forest was bad luck. You can't miss the penalty and
penalty at Forest, terrible pen. Yeah. Penalty at Liverpool, not good enough. Like, it's there, and other teams, I feel like they capitalise on those opportunities. I almost feel like we used to, because we used to believe in ourselves that if it's there for the taking. But yeah, it's too many points dropped for me, especially away from home. That shouldn't be. Again, Bournemouth. Like, for me, watching that's Bournemouth at home, and we were hanging on to that 1-0 lead at one point, like with desperation, like the way we were playing. I had my head in my hands, because it almost looked like that sort of relegation battle, scraping these wins in order to clutch onto those points that will keep you out of the drop zone. And I was like, this is Bournemouth at home, like middle of the season. What are we doing? Like, what? We looked so rattled by them, and that was another one for me where I was like, yeah, great, but again, decisions. Yes, they were the right ones, went in our favour, but another week, another team, maybe they don't. So there is luck, but I mean, it has gone in our way sometimes. So I know Ben Johnson coming out after Wednesday and saying, maybe we've not had the fortune we've had last season. Like, it's not fortune for me. It's not about fortune at all. It is really taking the chances that are there to nick points off of the big six when we should be. When arguably in some of those games we've been the better team, or we've at least turned up and deserved a point. And it's just not good enough to walk away from them with nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, were either of you at the Blackburn game midweek?
Yep.
We're both there. So let's get into this one then. Now, I know some people aren't that pushed about Carabao Cup. I am. We haven't won a cup since 1980. Right on the crest there. And I'm just desperate for us to do that, and I don't care what it is. I mean, Carabao Cup is a cup that's a domestic cup that's there to be won. I would never turn my nose up at any cup win, whether it's conference or Carabao or FA Cup. I'm desperate for West Ham to win a cup. I want to see that. I mean, I was 5 in 94, actually. I hadn't turned 5 yet, the FA Cup final in 1980. So I'm desperate. I need a cup. I don't care what shape it is. So for me, it was quite sickening.
Tommy,
actually.
didn't we win the Betway Cup?
Yeah.
Really big sparkly Betway Cup pre-season friendlies. Blimey.
Yeah, didn't float my boat for some reason. Oh. I'm fussy. Yeah, but so yeah, Carabao Cup midweek. I thought that was a great opportunity to progress. I knew Blackburn were going to rest a lot of players. They've got a massive game against Burnley this weekend, top of the table clash. Their priority is absolutely to get promoted.
Playoffs, yeah.
Yeah. So we knew they were going to rest a lot of players, and they did. I mean, they just made wholesale changes. And we put out, okay, it's a second string team for us, but it's still a good side that was put out by us midweek. That was not a team of mugs that we put out. That wasn't full of kids. That's a good side that should not have too much trouble at home dispatching Blackburn's B team. So I'll let you take it, Laura, because you were actually there. Now, there was no stream of this game, so I was kind of relying on kind of radio stuff. I couldn't even find a decent radio commentary for it. So I was actually on this channel watching Anton on this channel, who was basically doing the commentary on the game as he was watching it. So that's all I got. But you guys were sitting there. You could see everything. What did you make of the whole thing, Laura?
I mean, to be honest, I wasn't actually paying much attention because, quite frankly, I was bored. And being honest, it should have just conceded within 6 minutes. A little bit embarrassing to Blackburn B team. Should have buried the game within the 90 minutes. But this isn't, like, I'm not saying it was bad luck, but a lot of other teams fouled on Wednesday as well. So again, I relate back to, is it the World Cup playing on everyone's minds? Focusing on the league on the weekend. This is a Mickey Mouse Cup, etc., etc. I don't know if that plays a big part in it. I mean, Declan Rice wasn't even on the bench. So how seriously was we taking this, really? Considering we only had the European game on last Thursday, then we had a crap result against Palace the weekend. Was our heads really in this game? I don't know. It didn't seem like it was, to be honest.
Yeah, did you feel that way, H? Like the players maybe weren't really going for it?
I don't think we looked all that different in terms of our motivation to many of the other games recently, to be honest. So that says it all, right? It's all been quite lackluster, low confidence, low urgency. But like Laura said, to concede that early at home to Blackburn is embarrassing. And Areola's, he's got to be in tears looking at that after. Like, that's not a goal you can see. I think it went straight through his legs, straight down the middle. But they put the pressure on for so long. Like, they could have gone 3 or 4 up. Because we just look so scrappy in defensively. But I think when I watch games, I try my best to watch us and what we're doing. And then I like to see how other teams are playing us and what they're doing to stop us. And I've not done that a lot recently because all my focus has been on us and what we're doing right or wrong. But I think Blackburn, for a large portion of the game, did it all right for me. They did everything correct in that they've obviously seen that our ball retention is poor. We're a bit nervy in possession at the moment. Our passing isn't great. We're struggling to string together through passes and we're not breaking forward very well. So they gave us no time on the ball whatsoever. It looked like they were closing us down for a large portion of that game straight away. We should be able to handle that. We should against Blackburn, and with those players, like you say, Tommy, it's not a crap lineup. Our bench is now the depth that we wanted, but they didn't give us time. They made us look nervous. They made us look weak on the ball, and they took their chances. They turned up, which I think we failed to do. So it was a really miserable game for me, and arguably quite nervy because it could have been more. At many points through the game, there are a few errors at the back that I think we were all baffled. That we were allowing that to happen and allowing them to put a ball over the top, ball down the channels and knock us back like that. So it's
and I suppose we can't use the excuse that it was our kind of second string team essentially, if you like, because Blackburn did the same thing. They had their B team. It was clear to any Blackburn player that the manager is prioritising the Burnley game at the weekend, but it didn't stop their second string players coming out and having a go and showing some enthusiasm for the cup tie, trying to enjoy it and having a pop at us, take a scalp, if you will. So our players can't use that excuse that, well, second string team, so obviously manager's not taking it seriously, so, we don't need to kind of bother. So I don't think that's an excuse, Laura, is it? I mean, those players that we had on the pitch should have been able to go out there, have a go at Blackburn, control the ball, control the tempo, and get a result.
Completely, yeah. I would like to know what the younger lot think. The academy boys. I think I see today that Ashby's not going to renew his contract and he wants to sell. And this isn't the first one. I mean, we're talking about 5 or 6 out the door last summer. So I don't know if that's an indication of frustration. You got Connor Coventry, who's meant to be the next big thing. I just don't think he's good enough. I really don't think he's good enough. So I don't know. Some of the academy players seem to be frustrated as well. So I don't know if it's just maybe a complete club thing rather than just the first team as well.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed about the Ashby News H. I really rate this kid. I think he's going places.
Does Moyes though? Because Moyes never seems to rate anyone apart from Wayne Rooney.
Again, like I think against FCSB, like spent the whole time pretty much sat down with those youngsters out there. There was very little energy and enthusiasm from that sideline from him to those players. It was, and you could argue, he's sitting there, he's focusing, he's watching these boys, he's looking at the potential, and he played them in the first place, which is positive. But I don't know, spot on there. Is it a case of they're seeing that they're not going to be well valued? Are they thinking I'm going to go down the same route as some of these players and I'm not going to be played where I want to be played? I'm not going to have my fullest potential brought out of me. Not everyone's going to be Declan Rice. Not everyone's going to be someone who's going to grow like that at our club. And I do worry that, one like Ashby is going to come back to haunt us when we see him signing for a club, growing and developing like he can, and being someone who will regret allowing to walk out the door.
Yeah, I think so too.
Probably no, right?
Yeah, I think so too. I don't normally get my panties in a bunch if we kind of sell a young player, because, like you say, I mean, how often does it come back to bite us? Very rarely.
Well, this is the thing. Like, I don't think anyone in the last 5 years has come back to bite us. Not one.
No, but I just have a suspicion this one might.
Yeah.
Considering
the right backs we've got now, Johnson, who's not really on form, and Sufal, who's not been the same since injury.
Mm-hmm.
You got Ashby on the bench there. Give him a go. Give him we've got one game. Let him play against Leicester. See how he gets on.
Yeah, I mean, when you consider, in the early games of this season, I mean, Sufal was in really poor form.
Mm-hmm.
Johnson, I think they picked up an injury. That was an opportunity for Moyes, because obviously this summer Ashby looked like he might leave, and we managed to hold on to him He wanted to go to Newcastle, and Eddie Howe wanted him, and we managed to keep hold of him, until the transfer window shut. And I think that was the point where, if Moyes really thinks this kid's got something, with Safal playing so poorly and Johnson injured, that's where you say to him, "Okay, kid, going to give you your chance, going to put you in, see what you've got, prove yourself to me, and you can force your way into the first team and make yourself a regular in this team. Give Ashby something that he can cling to. Give him his opportunity, and it's up to him then to take it if he's got the talent and the application." But Moyes just didn't do that whatsoever. Just moved Kehrer over there, and you just knew that was it. Once Kehrer moved to right back, you just knew Ashby had no chance.
Yeah. Is he that type of manager to do that though? He doesn't strike me as the type of person to do that. I don't know why. Obviously, I don't know him personally, but it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't. He might have had words with him, promised him, X, Y, and Z. But I don't think he's that sort of manager. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think he's probably, given the pressure he's under now, I think it makes it even less likely that he's going to chuck anyone in. So but that's Moyes, unfortunately. But so let's talk about tomorrow then. I did mention to you guys earlier in the DMs and Twitter that I was going to ask you about what you want to see from tomorrow. H, I guess we'll start with you. Formation-wise, what would you like to see? Or rather, because I think we probably know what Moyes is going to do, right? The kind of team he's going to have. So forget Moyes for a minute. H, this is about you. You're picking the formation and the side tomorrow. So what formation would you put out against Leicester tomorrow?
Good question. I think some reflection still on these conversations, because now I don't want to go and Moyesy the hell out of it. I'd play us with a back four, and then I think I'd have our two midfielders. Back four. I think I'd take, actually starting with goalkeeper, I'd have Areola. I would give him the chance to play there, because for me, if we're looking at a dream lineup and how we're going to approach the game, I trust Fab, right? I really like him. I do rate him, but it's a miracle for him to distribute that ball out quickly. And if we're going to want to come out and press teams and attack teams and show them that we're not going to be inviting, then that ball needs to get out of the back quickly. And I just like to see Areola play a bit more now. So I'd put him in goal.
What's the back four then? What's the back four?
I'd have Agua and Zuma centre back. Zuma's been absolutely outstanding for me the past few games, like United, phenomenal. I'd have Cress. And to be honest, I mean, for me, controversial one, but I would probably still play Sufal in the interest of that attacking football, getting the ball out quickly. He does make those runs down the channels. He does offer something. And if he's got the right players in front of him and in the middle with him, it doesn't have to go all the way to the byline and be a cross, right? Like, he will get involved in those forward breaks. I think a little bit better than Kehrer would at that position. And I think Kehrer he's been getting caught out recently. So I think that's where maybe I'd do my playing it safe and keep Suf where he is, in the interest of attacking. I'd bring Downes in with Rice in the middle for that retention, that possession game, and the ability to get the ball out to the channels and move forward.
You're going two in midfield? You're going to go 4-2-3-1?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to change it up. And then I think, Benny's got to play for me. He's been great. And of attacking, driving forward, he's key for me there. I'd play Fornals. I'd drop Bowen. Maybe not the right decision, but his confidence could have been knocked from the World Cup decision making. Again, you could say, but it's the last game left, just give him that run out. But Will I make a statement? Do I want to see Fornells getting involved a little bit? Again, with those players around him, if I'm going to play that lineup, I feel like he could be well used in there. And then I'll have Paqueta and Scamacca up top.
All right, cool, yeah.
I don't see with that they're not being serviced that Scamacca needs, and goal scorers there, right? I'm dying for Paqueta to score. I really am. But
yeah, he probably needs one, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me that's the lineup. There'll be subs made, and definitely before the 70th minute. Maybe not at half time for Scamacca again, but yeah, I think that's a starting lineup for me, because I'd like to see us just, come out straight away, strong, attacking, put them on the back foot, at least give them something to think about from the off. And I think with those players, they're all players who want to break forward, they want to drive, they want to run at teams, and they want to be creative. So, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, good side, like it. Laura, formation-wise, what would you do?
I'll probably go attacking, so I'll probably go Areola, Cress, what's his name?
Yeah.
Aguerd.
Aguerd, yeah, whatever. Zuma, and then Kira. And then
Nathan Aguerd, is it? Yeah, Nathan Aguerd.
Yeah,
Moyes called him Nathan Aguerd, didn't he?
Yeah. Then I would go Rice, Fornells, and Paqueta. I can't even say their names. Paqueta, is it Paqueta? Yeah.
Paqueta. Yeah.
Paqueta, that's it, Paqueta. Then I would have Benny, Scamacca, and Bowen. But I would be tempted to see how Bowen gets on in the first 45 and then switch on Antonio in that position and see how they play. I would just go for it. If you know what I mean, we ain't. I'll be honest with you. Last game before the World Cup, just go for it. See how we get on. You never know.
Yeah. I feel
like we've got good enough defenders to defend that game.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an argument to be made for Paqueta alongside Rice. I mean, he's not lazy. He's not a prima donna. He's willing to do the hard yards, and he's used to playing in a deep line midfield role too. And it could work a treat. It could really work, and it frees up another attacking position further forward as well. So there's definitely
Fornells just gives you that extra workhorse. Get the ball. Sometimes he plays some fantastic balls. Yeah. And with Benny there, you know what I mean? With Benny, though, sometimes I feel like he's so scared to shoot because he'll get the bollocking from Moyes.
Yeah.
And 100%. That's wrong. That's wrong.
Player on. Because he knows if he gets dispossessed, like, I've even started if play breaks down when the ball's at Ben Ramsey, I look over at Moyes straight away.
Yeah.
So, like, and I saw, like, the clip of, it was before he made the sub against Palace, and you could see Ben Ramsey was coming, and he was shaking his head. Like, so yeah, I think you're right, Laura. Like, he just knocks the wind out of his sails a little bit. He's scared to shoot. He's scared to take players on. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I was doing this show last week. I was actually on my own last week, so I was kind of going live chat heavy, bringing up comments and responding to those. And someone had mentioned about possession. You have to be careful with possession. And I said, well, not always, no. In certain parts of the field, yes, you want your defenders and your midfielders who are coming out from the back with the ball to be careful in possession. But players like Benny shouldn't be told to be careful with possession. I don't care if Benrahma loses the ball when he's attacking. I don't care if Paqueta's driving at their defence and gets dispossessed. I'd rather see Benny taking on a fullback and trying to go past him. And yeah, sometimes fullback might dispossess him. I don't care. I don't want my attacking players being cagey and just turning back and laying a ball back 10 yards down the line because they're worried about losing the ball. I want Benny running at people. I want Bowen or whoever's on the other side running at people. I want Paqueta to try that through ball. Okay, centre-back might cut it out. I don't care. Try the pass. Make the pass. In the final third, I don't want to hear about possession. I want to see players running at defenders. I want to see them driving into the box. I want to see them committing defenders and trying to make things happen. I don't care if Benrahma loses the ball when he's running at fullback.
look how good we look when it works.
But
Sorry, Laura.
yeah, no, sorry, I didn't know. So like, you look at Man City, right? How many times do they do that, and how many times they get a goal? You're not going to happen every time, you know.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, but they keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
They keep knocking on the door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
and it does feel like there's just like this lack of, I don't know, they just don't look empowered to do it as well as confident. It's like they feel like they can, like they don't want to make those runs. I think the one of the biggest things that I think everyone's screaming around me at the moment, every single game, is drive. Literally everybody is going, just drive. Like as soon as we get the ball back, drive. Like, and we are making the runs down the channels.
No.
We are like, and that's if we're in possession from the back. But then we only get so far, and then we stop, and then the backward passing comes in, or it breaks down in the middle, you know, and we've invited the pressure on the counter attack, and then look, Palace, right? So it's, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Tommy. I would rather us lose possession, giving it a go, giving teams something to think about. Force an error. This is my issue in some of these games, is just give them something to think about. Give a keeper something to do, even if it's a pot shot. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'd just rather us make those runs. Like,
yeah, and I mean, look, defenders hate facing their own goal.
Yeah.
If you're playing slowly and you're just kind of passing the ball slowly, ponderously over and back, defenders are just stood in position. They can move, they can shuffle left and right, they can keep it all tight. The worst thing for a defender is getting turned and running towards his own goal, facing his own keeper. It causes problems for them. And so we've got to allow our attacking players to commit those defenders. Yeah, sometimes they'll nick the ball off you. So what? Even if they do, they've still got virtually the whole pitch to try and create an opportunity. You know, it doesn't mean you're going to concede loads of goals. So, yeah, completely agree to you in that, H. Just let our attacking players have a go. You know, if they lose the ball, they lose the ball. But like defender has to get it right every time. You know what I mean? Whereas someone like Benny or Bowen, maybe in a game, if they keep running and committing defenders, they might skin him 5 times in 90 minutes, and that might be enough to create 2 goals.
Yeah.
Either score themselves or lay one off for someone else to score.
My only worry is getting caught out on the left side with Cresswell because of pace. That's my worry about going forward too attackingly and getting caught out on the break, because it's happened so many times down that left side. I wouldn't say Zuma was overly fast either.
No.
So that is a bit of a worry, I think. And I think that's what David Moyes is so concerned about, is getting done on the break.
Keeps him up at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must do. It must do.
The worry about getting countered on because you've got, you know, some attacking players on the pitch who are actually attacking. Yeah.
No, we are.
You know?
We are anyway.
Yeah. Well, you could, you know, Laura, you had Cresswell at left back. You could have chucked Emerson in. He got a bit of pace.
He's got a broken nose.
Looks good going forward too.
Yeah, but I do like Cresswell's corners. I'm not being funny. How many when Cresswell's not playing, we can't even beat the first man. It's appalling.
Yeah,
it's absolutely appalling. So,
yeah, to be fair, you know, I've got Cresswell in my team as well. I think Cresswell actually has been one of our better performers this season.
Yeah, I'd say so.
He's been one of our better players. He's having a good season so far, Cress, actually.
Yeah. For some reason, I don't know who it is that keeps taking the corner that can't beat the first man. I can't for the life of me think who it is. I don't know if it is Bowen. I can't remember.
Yeah, Bowen's
everyone's been guilty of it. Every time we step up to take a corner, I'm like, I'm so low in confidence that we will be the first man. Whereas before, season before last season, I think we're going to score from this.
Yeah.
We're going to score from
100%.
this. Whereas now, I'm literally like, first man or keeper's going to come and collect that.
Yeah. It's really strange how much we've dropped off on those set pieces. I mean, there's no particular reason that should happen.
No,
you'd think that with more competition in the squad now, we would really be pushing on. like don't want him to take my place, blah blah blah. But there is none of that.
No.
But is that because he picks the same players regardless anyway?
Yeah, I think if we were to predict David Moyes starting 11 tomorrow, I think we would be incredibly close. We maybe get it wrong by one player, but that would be it. That would be it. But I just hope he's. The question tomorrow, isn't it, is going to start Benny on the left for Fornells. That's it, really.
I'd put Fornells in the middle. I really would.
Yeah, I don't want to see Benny on the left. He's not a left winger. I think Benny. I think, you know what? Tomorrow, let's say he does the 4-2-3-1. If we were to see Paqueta alongside Rice and Fornells in the number 10, I'd be thinking, okay, all right,
we're going seriously. Yeah. And you know what? It might get the crowd going. Really,
yeah.
It might get the crowd going because it is over there. It is
It's
terrible.
disaster. It's so bad.
I mean, we're a big club in terms of fans. I mean, we if you gave us 6,000 seats for an away day, there would be 6,000 people there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was quiet anyway. But when you're playing crap defensive, you need to get attacking, get the crowd up for it. Look at the games last year. Leicester was brilliant. Chelsea, brilliant. Liverpool, brilliant. Sevilla and Lyon, brilliant. Because the crowd was there behind us, behind them even. Sorry, we just don't have that half the time.
Yeah, well, I think we're so defensive and so slow. I mean, there's really not much for the fans to get.
Not much to get excited about, is there? Really?
No, completely, and that's what I was saying. So if we played attacking, we might get an atmosphere going.
Yeah, and I think the fans, I think, would accept the drawbacks that maybe come from being more attacking. Okay, maybe you're a little more open, but I think but you have to accept that and give and take. I think particularly as a lot of the teams we play against, we're going to be better than them.
Yeah,
we're going to be better on the pitch, and I think the one thing, like I said earlier, is I wish Moyes would just trust the fucking players.
No.
I mean, how many? You know what? I've actually got some really good players here. I'm going to trust them to go and be better than them, and just beat them.
How many shots did Leicester convert that turned into goals?
I don't know.
Not every break is gonna be a goal. No. So I just think just go for it.
I don't know.
It's so frustrating.
The one, right? But if you were to ask fans, would you rather really just go for it, give it a good go, and lose 2-1 at home, or would you rather play the way we're playing, sit back, and scrape a 1-1 draw? People go, "Oh, you respect the point, you take the point." That's fair enough. You're getting. For me, and for a lot of these fans, it's an unreal fan base that we've got. It's so loyal. Like, we're still going to turn up. We're still going to go to these games and watch them because that's just what we do. We love it. We always will. We're going to be here longer than these players are. But you can't help but feel like if there's nothing to get excited about, we are going to bring the atmosphere down. We are going to be making boos at full time and cheers when certain that are not meant to be directed at the players, but you're not, we were all so shocked, but also buzzing at the signings we made. And we thought this is going to be so positive and, European football again. And yeah, I just can't help but feel it's going to put a big, big down on it. And people are going to say, I'd rather us be actually just going for this than just accepting crappy draws or, because look what happens to teams when they do go for it. When they give it a go, it pays off. And if it doesn't,
Newcastle.
And it's not as if it's not as if the current approach is working.
I mean, you can't. We'll always find, football fans are funny. We'll always find a reason to be annoyed about something, right? But I'd rather us 100% go for it, attack, look confident, do all the right things and lose than play the really comfortable, which actually isn't all that comfortable because it's not really working, style of play and scrape a draw. Or, you know, a win's a win, I get that. But the people go, oh, but you can't be annoyed because we're getting the points. Well, one, we're not really. Two, I mean, I don't really want to criticise fans because they're just absolutely amazing. But it's like saying, you know, but if you didn't like your meal, at least you're fed. No, I'm still going to complain if it's shit at the end of the day. Like, I'm good at it. But yeah, it's just we want to see more. We need to see more and we deserve to see more. And those players do as well. I mean, come on. Like Rice, Scamacca, Paqueta, they can't be out there thinking this is exactly what I bargained for.
Tommy, you should do a poll on Twitter and see what the fans react to. It'd be interesting.
It's really mixed. Like, I've seen mixed, like when people go, I'd just rather us just go and give it a go. And some people have gone,
take the point.
Take the point, respect the point. I get that. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to go out and play really like attacking football every week and then get battered. I would be annoyed. But at the moment, we're basing this on right now, on how we're playing. What would you rather take? And
I'll tell you what, like
there wasn't that gap.
Yeah. After the last few months, I'll tell you what, I mean, I'd give anything to get that Leeds to get a 4-3 win. Like a game like that, I'd be absolutely buzzing. Okay, we conceded 3 goals, but we scored 4. I'm like, well, what a game that was. I mean, you'd just be buzzing, wouldn't you, after it? But we haven't had that for a long time, really. You know, I think the last time I was like genuinely, absolutely buzzing after a game was probably the second leg against Sevilla.
Yeah.
That was unbelievable. And I just kind of missed that, you know. But okay, Laura, I'm going to start with you. The question tomorrow, gut feeling, what do you think?
I think we'll win. I do think we'll win. I do. I've got.
Are we talking like shithouse of 1-0, or you think we're actually going to turn up?
I think we're going to play shit in the first half and turn up in the second half.
What a shock!
Yeah, I do. I think we will win. I'm going to be positive. Last game before the World Cup. Go all out. Just give it a go. Just give it a go. Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. Every time I've had a little prediction this season, I couldn't have been more wrong. And I never used to do it. I used to refuse because I used to feel like, I don't know, like jinxing it or something. And I've gone into every game going, well, I for some reason, I thought we would turn Palace over by like 2 or 3 goals. I thought we'd turn Bournemouth over. So I'm going to say it'll be a 1-1 draw.
Yeah. Bit of a kind of nothing result for both teams, really, wouldn't it be? Yeah.
Because there's going to be goals in every game as well. Liverpool, I was like, there's going to be goals galore. So I'm going 1-1 draw in the hope that I'm very wrong.
Yeah, I'm not optimistic. I can't lie. That Palace game has really shook me. I have to say that was horrific. And I don't trust Moyes anymore. If I'm honest, I just don't. I think he's going to set up really cagey. He's going to invite them on. And I'm not optimistic. Scamacca, I think, isolated again. I don't see it happening. It's a resurgent. Leicester, Madison's buzzing. He just got called up.
Rice doing all the work.
Yeah, they've got some really good players in there. You know, I think Harvey Barnes is such a good player. I think we're gonna. I think Moyes is going to play Kerr at right back, and I think he's going to struggle. I think he's going to struggle with Barnes and Dewsbury Hall as well in midfield. Actually, with Madison, I think he's a really good player. James Justin is playing really well. Obviously, Tielemans has really found his feet as well. I just
don't underestimate Vardy either.
Yeah, and I just think they've got a lot of players on form right now, and they've turned the corner. So I'm pessimistic, I have to say, for tomorrow. I actually think we're going to lose this one 2-0 or 2-1. And well,
it's all on you, Laura.
Yeah,
you've got to be right, mate.
Yeah, look, I'd love to be proven wrong. I really would. I'd love for us to come out and actually change our approach completely tomorrow, and for Moyes to actually have a go at them and really get after this game. because I think they are beatable. I mean, they do concede goals, Leicester. Funnily enough, they've scored twice as many goals as us, but they've also conceded twice as many goals as us. So,
but they're no mugs. They're no mugs. Don't
No.
forget they won the what was it, the Shield the other year? Was it last year or the Shield, whatever? I think they beat City, didn't they? So there ain't no mugs. Like they've got practically the same team as well.
yeah, and I'll tell you what, that new centre back, looks like Sideshow Bob. I can't remember his name, but he looks another cracking signing for them.
It's not going to be easy.
No, it's going to be a very difficult game against an informed Leicester who will be full of confidence. I think we're the exact opposite. I think, it's going to be interesting. We need a reaction to that Palace game.
Yeah,
I do wonder if there will be something from the players. I do wonder if there will be like a enough is enough now. Like fans aren't happy. Wednesday was an embarrassment. Palace game was an embarrassment. It's the last one. Let's give them something. Because they know that we're also thinking, oh, great, we've now got time off and then first game back's Arsenal away. Like, outstanding. Like I was nervous that we were going to really find some form and then that was going to give us a drop in momentum. And, maybe they'll think about the opposite. Let this be the beginning of, us finding our feet. And, maybe they will think that. Maybe they will come out and really, really give it something because they want to give us something, right? Because I've not seen that yet. I've not seen that for the fans bit yet.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing for me, Laura, will be to see what reaction we do get to the Palace game. Obviously, it's exacerbated a little bit by the loss to Blackburn midweek, but I think really the Palace game last week, there was a massive sea change among the fan base. The boos, there was kind of some booing at half-time. Then obviously massive boos when Benny was taken off, massive boos at the full-time whistle. It's going to be interesting to see if there's going to be a reaction to that.
I hope so. I really hope so.
Or if look, there's one of two reactions really coming tomorrow from Moyes and the players. Either they're going to say, right, this is the turning point. We can't keep doing this. We've got to change how we approach things. We've got to play differently. We've got to be more positive. And let's go out tomorrow and have a go at Leicester and take them on and try and beat them. Or they're going to go completely back into their shell and it's just going to be the same again. That they're just going to be just scared, playing scared, basically, because of what's happened. So, I don't know. It's hard to say what's going to happen.
I'd like to think it's the first option. I think it's going to be the latter. And also, I am worried for after Christmas as well. Our run's not easy. Arsenal away, Brentford at home where we ain't beaten. Then you got Leeds away. Leeds away is a hard place to go to.
Game.
I think in February we've got
with
Newcastle
our away form, the way it is.
Yeah, we've got Newcastle away February who are playing brilliantly.
Right.
I think is Brighton in February as well. Brighton away.
We never beat them.
No,
so I'm not being funny, but we don't pick up 3 points tomorrow. We're on a big downward spiral.
Yeah.
Big
okay.
time.
Final question of the night for you both. Should we lose tomorrow? Will Moyes survive it? Number one. And number two, should he? H?
He will.
You don't think they'll sack him even if we lose again tomorrow?
Nope. No, I don't think they will. I don't really know why, but it's just that feeling. Like I just don't see us having the balls to go, you've had enough time now. He has had enough time. But I think there's just too much. Yeah, but look at how well he does in Europe. Look at, give him time. There's a break. There's friendlies. There'll be training. Like there'll be too many reasons that they'll say, oh, I think if there wasn't the World Cup break, maybe not. Because they'd be going, well, this is on to next week now. Like we can't keep giving you a lifeline. Whereas I think that World Cup break will be the lifeline. Whether or not he should, I find it really hard.
If you're in charge, H, if we lose tomorrow, would you pull the trigger? Especially given that, essentially, I mean, if
do you know what? I would. Yeah, I would. Yeah. I think I would. I always find this really. I find it really tough. And, everyone's like, yeah, but you look how much he gave us and stuff. But then I'm thinking, yeah, we're going into Europe, March, it's back. We've just been knocked out of a cup. We're, scraping at the bottom of the table. We've got, like Laura says, difficult run coming up. I'd be going, but then it's tough. But yeah, I think I would. Yeah, I think I would pull the plug tomorrow.
Laura, will they, and if this is all given that we lose tomorrow, will they, number one, and would you, number two?
They won't. I think they're gonna see out the season. Depending where we get in, because if we win the conference, we go back into Europe. It's money. All they care about is money.
Yeah.
So, and should they? What was it? Should they? I don't think they should right now. The thing with the board, they're money orientated. How much have you got to pay out for him to release his contract? I don't know how much that is. And second of all, I was speaking to my dad earlier. Do you know how much money they rake in from that football club? It's ridiculous. And I think they're business people, and I think if we continue in Europe, they'll keep him because of the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suspect you're both right in that. I don't think he will be sacked if we lose tomorrow. I don't expect him to be sacked if we lose tomorrow.
I think it's out of order if we sack him after we lose tomorrow, going into a World Cup. I think if we're talking about this in February, March, maybe, but having a month's break.
I'll tell you where I am on it. Actually, I've got a different take on the should we.
Okay.
I would sack him regardless of the result tomorrow. I think he's got to go. I do think he's losing the players. I do think we're going backwards. I don't think he can get a tune out of players like Paqueta and Scamacca. And I actually think the World Cup break could be perfect for us because it's essentially the new manager's got a pre-season, essentially.
Chance to build, good shout.
So most of the players are still going to be around. Some of the players that aren't, some of the players that are at the World Cup, they won't all go deep into the competition. Some of them might be in a team that gets knocked out in the group stage. You'll have them back quite quickly. It's like a new manager's got a pre-season with the players. And so by the time we play Arsenal at the Emirates on Boxing Day, he's had a lot of time with the players to implement what he wants to implement, the style of play, formation, what he wants from all of them. So I would do it. I would do it regardless. I think Moyes has taken us as far as he can. I think the style of play is absolutely turgid. I think it's horrible to watch. I don't like watching it. I'd like to see a more progressive manager come in. I know there's a few names that can be bandied about, but I would do it regardless of the result tomorrow.
Who would you want to take over? If you had to take over tomorrow?
Obviously, look, this is obviously dependent on who's willing to take the job on.
If you could pick your dream manager,
if I could have anyone,
that's free at the moment.
Yeah. Realistic, okay, within reason. Obviously, I'm not going to say Pep, but I'd take Mancini. I think he'd do it too.
Really?
Yeah, he's the Italy manager at the moment, but they haven't qualified for the World Cup. And you know what managers are like. Look, obviously, it's a huge honour for him to manage his country, but it's a part-time job, and they've got no World Cup. And I think managers much prefer club football. Mancini's got Premier League experience. He probably will get the best out of Scamacca.
And not Tuchel.
I would take Tuchel.
I'd take him.
You know who we're going to get, though, if we sack Moyes?
Don't say it. Don't say it, Laura.
Sean Dyche.
Stop it.
He's cheap.
Okay, fine. I changed my mind. Moyes in.
Moyes in.
100%. There's no way you won't get.
I'll tell you what, Laura, you've touched on something, and it's actually another reason I want him gone now, because I think if we wait until February or late January, early February to sack him, I think we're back to where we were when we hired him, looking for a manager to keep us up.
Yeah.
And that's when I think the board will say, who can keep us up? Oh,
Yeah.
Sean Dyche.
Dyche, yep.
That's
Yeah.
my fear.
Spot
That
on.
if we leave it too late, we do end up with someone like bloody Dyche. And that's why I would do it now. Well, we can get a manager in who's going to have that pre-season essentially to get set up the way he wants it, work with the players, and in this, we might actually have a really good second half to the season where we can actually push on into that top 10 and push for European qualification through
Because
the
it's
league.
no different to last season, right? We started strong, we dropped off towards the end. What's not to say, terrible start. We boost it up at the end of the season. Other teams start struggling with their squads, injuries. We might get that bit of fortune there. It's doable, right? If we turn it around now, it's still very doable. With other
The thing
teams,
is, exactly, yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I don't think Moyes is going to turn this around.
no,
I
I think
don't.
you're right, mate. I think
he's
you're right,
too
mate.
set in his ways. I really do.
It's stale, isn't it? It's stagnated. I think he's been caught out and he's not got plan B.
Yeah, and
But
I do
I hate to say that because, you know, I am someone who's like, he did a lot for us and whatever, but you can't hang on to those things forever.
Yeah.
We didn't
and
win anything at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think the players have lost confidence in
and that's the thing. Once you lose the dressing room,
yeah, it's over. It's just a matter of when, not if.
right.
Yeah. Listen, guys, we're going to leave it there. I told you once you start talking about West Ham, hour and 41 minutes.
At least we're all still smiling at the end of it.
Yeah, never dull. It's never dull.
I think a bit
with
different
West
to
Ham.
how I did on Wednesday night, I tell you.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, thank you both so much for coming on. I thought this was a brilliant chat. You guys really know your stuff.
Really enjoyed it, Tommy and Laura. Thank you both.
Yeah, and hopefully you'll both come on and do this again.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Really
Thanks for having
appreciate
us.
Yeah, it's been a great chat, you know, and really interesting stuff. And like I said, it's been great to hear your opinions. It's always nice to hear different opinions. That's why I like to have people on the show. I don't like to hear myself talk. You know, it gets a bit boring, and so it was brilliant to have you guys on. Definitely have you both on again, and also obviously to everybody in the chat. There's been lots of you in there giving your opinions as well, and I really appreciate you coming on as always and supporting the show. And I hope you all join me again next week. But until then, from myself and from Laura and from H, all there is left to say is, come on, you aren't.